Sports, a bridge that brings people together. And here in the Commonwealth, it's no different. From the gridiron to the hardwood and beyond, we all have a team we love to talk about. Now for the teams you care about, here's Heartland Sports Live with Trevor Rice.
Welcome, everybody, to Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we are live streaming on ESPNRadio1061.com. You can always go back and check out every show on my iTunes link pinned to my Twitter account at Radio Trevor Rice. Good afternoon to you. A busy sports weekend here in the baseball world. Of course, we begin this week with the 17th District baseball and softball tournaments, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. What about the basketball play right now? We have a couple of good NBA series going on between the Bucks and the Raptors, as well as the Warriors, who have just been taking it to the Trailblazers. Trailblazers are going to have to avoid the sweep tonight, and I don't see that happening. I really do hope that we see the Bucks take on the Warriors. I think that'll be a very entertaining NBA series, but we'll find out. We'll see if the Warriors advance to the finals tonight, and then the Bucks and Raptors kind of extending it last night with a win at home. And if you're at home, you definitely have to make sure you're securing the victories. And of course, Kawhi Leonard has been clutch in these playoffs so far. We'll see if that can continue for tomorrow night, because that's when the next time the Bucks and the Raptors will play. But we're going to talk about some area baseball. We'll talk about the Reds. I have Jason Harbison of the Redlegs Radio Report from our sister station, 102.7. He has a weekend show Saturday mornings, 9 until 10 Central Time, 10 until 11 our time, and we'll catch up with him, talk about the Reds and their struggles from yesterday, as the Reds had a really good chance to win back-to-back series against a couple of tough opponents. The Chicago Cubs earlier in the week, they ended up winning 2 out of 3. They lost the first one, won the second 2, and then, of course, the Dodgers over the weekend. They had split games Friday and Saturday, winning 4-0 on Saturday, and then losing yesterday by the final run score of 8-3. A couple of home runs that were jacked, but a little... the offense was too late in that one to even matter. So the Reds drop another one and once again find themselves 5 games below 500. That seems to be a trend here in 2019 so far for these Redlegs, is they've been hovering right around that 4 or 5, maybe 6 games under 500, and they've never actually been able to move up any higher than that. They've found themselves to be right around 6.5, 7.5 games back from the Cubs so far. And if they're going to create some kind of magical run, they need to start looking to do that now, because it could be too late, as the Cubs have gotten off to a really good start here to begin to, I guess, get into spring ball. And they look really good going into the summer months as it stands right now. We'll see where these teams obviously land coming up, as the Reds will play some National League Central opponents on the way, with the Brewers. They'll play the Pirates coming up, the Cardinals. So we'll see if they can continue to get things going. And I know they do have another series with the Cubs coming up as well and over the next month. So we'll kind of see where everyone kind of stands when it's all said and done after that period of time. But you usually want to be right there in the hunt when it comes to the All-Star break. And right now the Reds are finding themselves slipping away slowly. It's like a slow death. You don't know how you feel about it if you're a fan, because you want them to do well, but you also don't want to jinx them, I guess, just because you've seen so much bad baseball over the last handful of years. And there's been some glimpses of hope so far here in the early portion of this season, that they have been able to show that they can score runs, just not consistently. So hopefully over the next few weeks they figure out something offensively where they can consistently do that. And I want to see where this team is once Scooter Gennett is implemented back into the lineup, because once he is back, I feel like that is a key piece that they are missing to help produce offensively. I'm not going to say that one guy is going to be the difference maker, but I think that he is a key piece in all of this. So we'll see where that goes moving forward. But let's check out the standings right now. The 17th district tournaments are going on this week in the baseball and softball world here in Hardin County. Central Hardin and Elizabethtown will play each other in the top half of the bracket. That going on tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. And then John Hardin and Fort Knox will, I guess, start things out this evening with a 5:30 p.m. start. And then tomorrow, the winner of that John Hardin and Fort Knox game will take on North Hardin in the bottom half of the bracket for an 11 a.m. game tomorrow morning, as we'll look to see where these teams land. And then the 22nd, which is Wednesday, we will see these teams, we'll see the championship game for the 17th District Boys Tournament, baseball tournament. And if I were just to look at this and pick, obviously, I think I would have to go with Central and North. They've been the two better teams throughout the regular season, and just two of the better teams overall in the 5th region. You look at the 5th region standings on the boys' side for baseball so far. You have North Hardin, who's 28-5. They went 19-4 in the region, 8-0 in district play. Taylor County, they are 27-8 at this point, 16-6, 6-3 in district play. Bethlehem, they went 26-9, 18-5 in region play, 11-1 in the district, so they had a strong season as well. Central Hardin, second best team in the 17th district, went 25-6, 9-2 in the region, 6-2 in district play. Those two losses in district play coming against North Hardin, who has been the most consistent team throughout the season so far. Then you go a little bit further down the list. You have Bardstown, who's also having a good season, 25-9. Campbellsville is 25-10. So a lot of solid baseball programs at the top of this list in the baseball standings here in 2019. Then you have LaRue County, who's 20-12. Marion County, 17-17. Greene County 15-19, and then the list just goes down from there. Some teams in the 17th district that just did not have a very good regular season. Of course, you know about the coaching struggles with Elizabethtown to about, 10 games in or so, 9-20 overall there, and then John Hardin finishing the season 7-25. The regular season, that is. Fort Knox only 1-16. So John Hardin and Fort Knox will go at it this evening, 5:30 p.m., which is coming up here shortly, as that winner will take on North Hardin tomorrow night, and that is not going to be an easy go. I'm telling you right now, I think it's going to be Central and North. And North, you beat Central Hardin twice during the regular season. Can you keep that going, though, is going to be the main concern. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a row, especially after they've seen the way that you pitch, after the way that you approach the at-bat situation in your lineup. Can Central maybe throw, no pun intended, a curveball here and maybe catch North off for at least a couple of innings to give themselves a chance in this game tomorrow night? Actually, yeah, I guess it'd be Wednesday night is when they would play each other. Wednesday night, when if Central wins against E-Town and North wins against, I'm going to presume John Hardin, will come out on top this evening against Fort Knox. I see it. I see it playing in Central's favor going into this one. They've really got nothing to lose. They lost twice during the regular season. They are going in to play for a 5th region championship, which I don't know if anybody necessarily is giving them the chance, especially after losing to North during the regular season twice. So we'll see how that goes. To the girls tournament now on the softball side this week in the 17th district tournament. John Hardin and Fort Knox will be going at it this evening, and then the winner will take on Central Hardin tomorrow. And that'll be it's going to be a tough challenge regardless of who plays Central. Central, clearly one of the best teams in the 5th region this year, as they are just about every single season. And I consider them the heavy favorites going into the 5th region tournament, winning the 17th district championship on Wednesday. Elizabethtown takes on North Hardin in the top half of the bracket, and of course it'll be Central and probably John Hardin in that other game in the bottom half. And I honestly don't know. I think the E-Town North Hardin game could be pretty interesting. I think Central Hardin is going to advance throughout the whole thing. But you look at the regular season standings, Elizabethtown, they went 14-13 on the season. North Hardin, they finished 12-14. So I think that's going to be clearly the better of the two games if you're to look at the matchups going on tomorrow in the softball tournament. But if you are following the softball side closely, you're probably going to see Central Hardin advance to the championship game with little to no effort needed, to be honest. 29-7 on the season. They wrapped up the year going on a 5-game winning streak, winning 5 of their last 10. Winning 9 of their last 10. I just don't see Central Hardin losing in the 17th district tournament. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing, or maybe I'm just not looking in depth at the other teams in the tournament to say that they can compete, because you look at I just want to go and look at the regular season matchups between these two teams real quick, between Central and North, and then Central and E-Town as well. Let's go back and see if we can find these matchups. North Hardin back on March 26th. It was Central and North. Central won 18-5 in that one. Okay, let's say Elizabethtown wins and advances to the championship game on Wednesday. Well, Central Hardin won 11-1 back on April 11th. And then they played North Hardin again. They won 13-3 back on April 16th. And then they played Elizabethtown a second time, winning 11-0 with a shutout victory on April 30th. So I don't see anybody beating Central. Central is going to go on cruise control into the 5th region tournament. And I don't know if that's going to hurt them or benefit them, because obviously you might see more players get action in these games. But at the same time, because you're not facing the toughest of opponents, does it hurt you going into the 5th region tournament knowing that, there's not anybody there to actually challenge you? That'd be my main concern. If I'm Jamie Goodman, that would be my concern. Yeah, you win a 17th district championship, but are the teams really challenging your team to better themselves, facing tough competition going into the 5th region? That would be my main concern if I'm Jamie Goodman. So that's what the boys baseball tournament looks like for this week in the 17th district, and the 17th district girls softball tournament as well. So we'll get more into that. I'll have Jason Harbison coming up here in the next segment. We're going to talk some Redlegs baseball. The Reds, of course, winning 2 out of 3 against the Cubs this past week. They lost on Tuesday, won on Wednesday and Thursday. Then they played a 3-game series with the Dodgers over the weekend, losing on Friday, winning 4-0 on Saturday, and losing 8-3 yesterday. We'll talk about all of that with him. And it's been a struggle for the Reds here in the early portion. They've been hovering right around 4 or 5, maybe 6 games under 500, as it's been a Titanic struggle, as Marty Brenneman would say. Jose Iglesias, I guess, the one guy that you can point to that if you're trying to point to where the Reds need to be, it's that kind of excellence. Jose Iglesias up to a .295 batting average now. He was at a .288, but actually up to his batting average over the weekend to a .295. And the guy has just been phenomenal getting on plate, and then also the RBIs he's bringing in right now. You got to like his performance when it comes to his play on the field. And then you have Eugenio Suarez, who's batting at .259 currently. Suarez leading the team in home runs. I do believe I have to look at the home run number. He has 13 on the season. So, yeah, he is leading the team in home runs. Second on the list is Derek Dietrich with 11 so far, who's batting a .24. So you would like to see those numbers come up on some of the players, but I think the biggest part of the Reds' offense so far is just the inconsistency with runs. They're just not bringing the runs in consistently, game after game after game. You'll have one game where they had 14. They've had another game of 12. If they can even average 4 to 5 runs, their starting pitching is doing a good enough job to allow them to win these ball games, game after game after game. But when you're getting shut out, or you're having games where you've been completely irrelevant offensively until the last inning, where you're putting up a couple of home runs that mean absolutely nothing after you're down 8-0 or 8-1, I think it was yesterday, that's just not good. Home runs are great, but you need more consistency of your players getting on plate, and the Reds right now have just been struggling doing that. We'll talk to Jason Harbison about this and more with the Reds coming up, as he has the Redlegs Radio Report show every Saturday morning, 9 until 10 on our sister station, 102.7 FM in Bowling Green. We'll get to that conversation after this. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we are live streaming on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Welcome back to Heartland Sports Live. Heartland Sports Live is powered by CC Power Sports this hour, where you can get a new jet ski for an incredibly low season opening price. And that's CC Power Sports, exit 121, just south of the Snyder at Brooks Road off I-65. Joining me right now with the Redlegs Radio Report on our sister station, 102.7, Jason Harbison is on the line. Jason, we just spoke with each other on Saturday. Now we're just going to reverse the roles, me asking the questions, you answering. How was your Sunday yesterday?
It was good. I wish the Reds could have pulled out a win, but, they're going up against a buzzsaw team, first place, LA Dodgers, so even taking 1 out of 3 games from them, I guess, can be expected.
Yeah, it was not the outing. A couple of home runs late, but at that point, that was just it meant nothing, because the Dodgers were up. I think it was 8-1 at the time, or 8-0, and then Reds finally got on the board, losing 8-3. Let's talk about this year's team, because there was a lot of hype going into this 2019 regular season, in which you see all the pieces they acquired through the offseason. Has this been a letdown so far, would you say, for Reds Nation?
I don't know. That's a really good question, Trevor. I know we talked about on our show this weekend with you that I think the one big surprising thing, though, has definitely been the pitching, especially the starting pitching. A lot of people were saying, including our show, we were saying that, they went out and they got a bunch of, number 3 and maybe 4 starters from other teams. And you look at their numbers now, and they're actually, although they did, like I said, run into the buzzsaw of the LA Dodgers, they are second right now, when they were leading going into that series with the best ERA of all pitching, and that's not just including the starting pitching, but they're sitting at 3.41 as their ERA, and just below that is the Dodgers, who are in first place with 3.38 ERA, and that's the best in the NL. Tampa Bay, of course, running away with it in all of baseball for 2.98. But I think the one thing that's also surprising on the other aspect of it, you mentioned all the guys they went out to get, that they didn't really get a lot of offensive power when you look at, Puig, and everybody was excited about that, and even having Kemp at the time before the Reds let him go. So, to answer your question about it being surprising, I mean, I think both of those kind of aspects are, things that people didn't really expect to happen.
Yeah, the starting pitching has definitely been strong. Jason Harbison of the Redlegs Radio Report on our sister station, 102.7. Saturday mornings, 9 until 10 down there, 10 into 11 here in the Heartland. And Jason, let's talk about where we're at right now. If you're the Reds, you're 7.5 games behind the Cubs right now. They're 27-17 overall. Is it too late to say that this team has a chance, or do you think that with playing some National League Central opponents over the next couple of weeks, this team can crawl back into things with some luck?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on that, Trevor, that with a little bit of luck, especially with the teams that they're playing in the Central, they can really make a move. So it's kind of, we were saying Saturday when you were on the show with us, it's kind of the make or break point of their season, because it's still somewhat early, but we've seen a good sample size, enough of the Reds to kind of know what they have. They're probably not going to go out and beat up on the Dodgers or any of those teams that are in first place, but they can really make some noise coming up here. They've got a game, a 2-series game against Milwaukee there, and then also at the Cubs, and then they get to come back home for Pittsburgh. So there's there's 3 series right there where they can make some big noise and some movement. Given anything that they can do, whether it's offensively or keeping their strong pitching going, it'll be really interesting to see down the stretch here, really through the end of May, leading right into the beginning of June.
We talked about this Saturday on your show, in particular, Jose Iglesias. He's actually up to his batting average over the weekend to 295 now. That's the benchmark, basically where you want the rest of the team to be at. What has he meant to this team ever since coming on board?
I think it's been immeasurable what he's done, and kind of much like the starting pitching, he's just been such a surprise. And we talked about how he's just quietly doing that, and I don't know how you can be quiet hitting 295, especially leading the team in that batting average. I just think that no one expected him, and I believe you said, Trevor, on our show that it was just super surprising to you, because here's a guy that you didn't really think of. You expect guys like Votto and Suarez to just kind of go out there and produce, but for him to be doing it as great as he is, and just at the top of the Reds leaderboard, if you will, on average. I'm thinking that he's probably he and the pitcher Castillo are really the 2 all-stars. If you were to choose an all-star representative from the Reds, you could argue that both of those guys would be at the top of that list.
I kind of gave my point on your show Saturday, my feelings on Scooter Gennett, the kind of impact that he will have on this team once he is back into effect. What are your thoughts, though, on Scooter, and what kind of things do you see him doing once he does make a return? I don't see him coming out, full throttle right away, but I would expect him to try to light things up going into the summer months.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you say that because Jim Day was talking on, I guess, between the innings or whatever they're on the broadcast this weekend. They were asking him how far out Scooter Gennett was, and then Jim had asked him how long he thought it would take to kind of get back in the swing of things, all pun intended. And he said, well, it'll be about, one pitch, and I can get back to my normal speed. I don't think that's very realistic. I know he's, half joking to Jim there, but there's a guy that, we talked again this past weekend about how you take that bat out of the lineup, and even in the first month of last year, he was hitting in the high 200s, 290s. Close to 300, and you take that bat out of the lineup, and again, it's going to take him a while to kind of get back up to speed, I think. He'll probably, of course, have to do a couple stints in the minors just to kind of get him back to game speed, so to speak, and then get him up. But it's going to be really interesting down the stretch, like you said, Trevor, just to see what he can do in these long, hot summer months that are coming up here in June, July. Hopefully he can stay healthy for the remainder of the season once he does come back.
You were talking about the strong pitching, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But it seems like a reverse role. The pitching's a lot better to start out this 2019 season compared to where it was a year ago. The batting seemed like it was much better at the start of last year. Why do you think that with the lineup change slightly, Scooter Gennett being out, why some of these guys who were on last year's team just maybe have not gotten off to the start that we anticipated?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know if it's just that they're not gelling. And you brought up a really good point on our show this weekend that I'd never really thought about it. And kudos for you. I know you and I had texted about this off air. But the game is really it's so interesting because even though it's a team sport, and you brought up about basketball and football as well, it's such a team sport, but yet there's an awful lot riding on the shoulders of individuals. And I think a lot of that is going a long way. If you look at Peraza and Votto, it's just I think that the whole checkup from the neck up, as Cowboy often says on air, is one thing that's just kind of weighing so heavy on them. It's like, well, we know that they can produce, especially Votto, but he's just struggling at the plate. Leading the team in strikeouts right now. Peraza's hitting 203, which is definitely low for him, and Votto's right around there at 208. So I think if those guys can turn it around, and whether it's all mental or what's going on with them, I think that's kind of the key there. Whether or not they do it, I don't know. But, I think guys like Senzel coming up from the minors, starting to kind of get his sea legs, so to speak, up in the majors. So those are some guys that you really need to look forward to kind of go down the stretch and really produce for the Reds.
Nick Senzel, Derek Dietrich, two guys who it's been kind of refreshing to see guys like that on the roster, guys who are enthusiastic about the game and have been producing. What has that meant for this year's team, and especially in amongst all the struggles that they may have had offensively up until this point? What's two young guys like that say about this team moving forward?
Well, I hope that those are guys that they can count on for a long time to come, especially, Dietrich. You look at all the kind of the off-field antics, if you will, that he's done, where he just looks like he's having a good time out there. Whether he's dressing up in the beekeeper outfit or he's juggling on MLB TV or any of the many things that he can do. And then even yesterday, came in and pinch hit, got a big home run. So those are some of the intangibles, although, his numbers may not be up there, but he's one of those guys that's going to come off the bench, and frankly, you could argue that he doesn't even need to be on the bench. He needs to be an everyday player to kind of get some repetition in his game. But he and Senzel are some of those guys that you almost want to build a clubhouse around, because it's just they're just great guys to be around. They look like they're having fun. They look like they're having a great time. They're fan favorites. You can throw Puig in that same category as well, whether they're dyeing their hair blonde to kind of match one another in the clubhouse. I mean, those kind of things go a long way, despite what their numbers are. And if you can kind of build around that kind of chemistry, I think that maybe the team can turn things around and kind of go a little farther.
Let's look ahead over the next few games, because, like I said, they're going to play some National League Central opponents, including tomorrow and Wednesday. They'll take on the Brewers on the road. Then they'll play a road series in Chicago over the weekend before coming back home against the Pirates next week. So we have 3 divisional opponents coming up. What do you see happening over these next few games, and how many of those do we need to win to realistically start to make that crawl back into possibly getting near the 500 mark?
Well, I'm going to kind of go back to what Dusty Baker used to say, and if you can go 500 on the road, and then when you come home, if you can win those series, that can kind of turn your ship a little bit and get you kind of back into the right direction. They've got 3 day games coming up in Chicago this coming weekend, over the long Labor Day weekend with an off day today and then also Thursday. So if they can take 1 or 2 of those games there, they'd be sitting pretty. And of course, Milwaukee is no slouch either, coming up here on Tuesday and Wednesday. Those games, I think if they can get one out of Milwaukee, maybe 1 or 2 out of Chicago, and then come home and win the series at Pittsburgh, I think that would be the time for them to kind of turn things around, kind of get going in the right direction, because I mean, once that happens, then Washington comes to town, and then they head off to St. Louis the 1st of June. And there's really no kind of downtime for them, because, like you said, they're coming up against all these central opponents. Then they play Washington, then they head to St. Louis, and then even after that, they've got Bryce Harper and the Phillies coming up right after that. So there's really no off time for them. So they really need to kind of make their move. If they're going to do it, now is the time to do it.
Has there been anything surprising to you in the National League Central up until this point? I mean, obviously we talk about it being the toughest division in baseball. Has there been anything surprising to you that you've seen when the Reds have matched up with these teams?
I think one thing is you kind of look how slow the Chicago Cubs started out their season, and they've really turned around, whether it's Joe Madden or what's going on with them. But there were people already calling for Joe Madden's head early in the season, because they started out pretty much as bad as the Reds did. And some people were even saying before the season, it's like, oh, well, they haven't made enough moves in the off season, and they were slated to be dead last. And granted, we're really just at the quarter pole of the season right now, but I mean, they've just turned their season around. You look at Pittsburgh. I really thought they had a lot better pitching as far as like starting pitching goes. I thought they had some of the best starting pitching on paper in all of Major League Baseball. But of course, as I said, the Reds are leading that right now. The Dodgers are leading that with the Reds just close behind. And that's been surprising to me. I didn't think that they were going to, run away with the division, but I figured that their pitching would take them a long way. And then again, you look at Milwaukee, and they're just riding on the coattails of what they did last year, and really there's no reason they can't make another playoff run, maybe even deeper in the playoffs than they did last year.
Who do you think has the most to improve still at this point in the season on this Reds roster? Let's just go batting here. Who do you think do we see will start to heat things up and maybe get back on track?
Well, like I said earlier, I really hope that Peraza can turn things around. There's a guy that, I mean, he's always, the last year especially, he was really consistent at the plate. May not have really just run away with any big numbers, but it's a guy that you can kind of get on base and steal a couple bases. He's got some speed. Of course, now that Billy Hamilton's gone, Although I have seen Senzel kind of pick up where he left off there with Billy leaving and getting a really, I guess, stealing a lot of bases, which is, I think, is something that's really underrated and almost forgotten in today's baseball game. But, I think Peraza is one of those guys. Of course, I'd love for Puig, and just, I know it's his year to be traded, so to speak, in free agency. So I'd love to see him kind of turn things around too. But those are some guys there. You look at Winker as well. I know he can do so much better. Before he got injured last year, I believe he's hitting low 200s right now. But he's a guy that can really turn things around. Kind of get his on-base percentage back up, whether he's drawing walks or wherever they have him in the lineup. I really think those three guys right there are kind of the key that I see to have kind of a strong second half of the season.
Jason Harbison of the Redlegs Radio Report on our sister station Saturday mornings down in Bowling Green 102.7 on the line with me. Eugenio Suarez, 13 home runs, leads the team this season. Talk about his play, and will we see it continue?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a guy that he kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start. He was kind of down in the bottom of the batting averages for the Reds, but now he's back up to, like you were saying, 259. His hits just kind of keep on coming. And I think the thing that you won't see in the box score is when his hits come. He's driving those guys in that are on second base. He's getting all of the RBIs that he needs to, and not just from like hitting, solo home runs, but he's leading the team right now in RBIs with 31. So he's getting it done. And ironically, Derek Dietrich, who we talked about earlier, is right behind him at 26 RBIs, and that's a guy that doesn't even play every day. So I think Suarez is just one of those guys that you can always count on, whether he's going out there and driving in runs down the line, or if he's just getting on base when he needs to and kind of get him on, get him over, get him in. There's a guy that you can kind of almost use as a tent pole for the Reds and just kind of build around him.
I'm putting you on the spot, Jason. Will this team be above 500 by the All-Star break?
Ooh, I don't know. I really think they're going to be hovering around where they are now, just one or two games maybe below. But I don't know that they're going to hit that kind of sweet spot mark of being at 500. So, and don't make any bets or anything on what I'm saying with that. So don't go out and place any bets on me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not a gambler either, and I really hope this team does start to succeed, and maybe when Scooter Gennett comes back, that'll change up things offensively, and the starting pitching has been helping these guys to be able to produce offensively and possibly pull in some wins. Unfortunately, that one or two runs, it seems like the Reds are always falling short in those tight games. Jason Harbison of the Redlegs Radio Report on our sister station Saturday mornings, 102.7, joining us here on Heartland Sports Live. Jason, I appreciate your time. Always good talking to you, and we'll have you on again real soon.
Hey, thanks so much, Trevor. I appreciate you coming on our show this past weekend, too, as well, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Jason Harbison on the Redlegs Radio Report. Coming up, we'll put a wrap on today's show. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM, and we live stream every show on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Welcome back to Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio 1400 AM, and we live stream every single show on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Trevor Rice in, and you can follow me on social media at Radio Trevor Rice on Twitter, Trevor Rice on _air, and find every show uploaded onto iTunes. You'll find a link on my Twitter account at Radio Trevor Rice, and you'll be able to go back, download, and listen to every single show. Maybe there was an interview that you wanted to hear. Go and check it out there. Well, I want to thank Jason Harbison of the Redlegs Radio Report for joining me in this last segment, talking about the Reds, their struggles, some of the strong play from certain individuals on the field. Starting pitching has been much better this year. If only they could get the batting. If they could take last year's batting and combine it with this year's starting pitching, I think the Reds could be a very dangerous team. Unfortunately, they never have both packages together. It's like you order a couple of things online and you get one thing immediately and you get the other, it's extended. There's a delay for whatever reason.
and it takes you forever to get it. And let's say you're just putting something together and you need that part. Well, you can't put it together without that part. And it just seems like where the Reds are right now. They have the starting pitching thing down here recently. Unfortunately, they don't always have the batting to go along with it, and so they are just floating between 4, 5, 6 games below 500. It's kind of frustrating. If you're a Reds fan, and since coming on to this station, being affiliated with the Reds over the last almost 3 years since I've been here, I've gotten accustomed to Reds baseball. I've started to like the team. I follow them, and it's frustrating for me, who I've never even been a diehard fan my entire life, but the fact that this team has never had a complete package year after year after year, it is frustrating. Last year it was the pitching that was just god awful. Now the batting is not up with the pitching this year, and it just seems like both packages have never been together, and it's really frustrating as a fan, and I could only imagine what it would be like for somebody who's been supporting this team, well, ever since the Big Red Machine days. Since the 70s, they had some solid baseball in the 80s, too. That 90s championship game, which Marty Brenneman says that was by far his most favorite team to watch, was that 90s team, which they were phenomenal. But eventually, they've got to put this thing together, right? The batting, they have to start connecting. Jose Iglesias, he is the poster child for what you want in your batters, batting a .295. You really want the rest of the team to get to that point. Unfortunately, some players have not, and so you're just kind of waiting for the consistency they are getting on plate, and which some of these guys, they get on plate consistently. It's just bringing in the runs, and that has just not been a constant thing at times. You can't get shut out. Not when your pitching is only allowing 2 runs. You just can't get shut out in some of these games. So we'll see where that goes moving forward. Let's look at the Reds schedule coming up. And for this week, tomorrow they play at 7:40. They'll be on the road taking on a National League Central opponent and the Brewers in a short 2-game series. 7:40 tomorrow. And then they will play an early afternoon game on Wednesday at 1:10, as they will then look to take on the Cubs heading into the weekend. Friday, they'll have an off day on Thursday. They'll play Friday against the Chicago Cubs on the road in a 3-game series, beginning a 3-game series, I should say. 2:20 Friday afternoon. They'll play at 2:20 on Saturday as well, and then they will play at 2:20 on Sunday in Chicago before coming back home next week, where they will play yet another National League Central rival, and the Pirates at 1:10 next Monday. Actually, they're gonna play a makeup game too. So there's gonna be 2 games on Monday, one at 1:10, one at 7:10. So keep that on your calendar. 2 games, a double header, I guess you could say. They're playing a makeup game, so they'll play 1 game against the Pirates Monday of next week at 1:10. Another game at 7:10, and then they'll play 2 more at 6:40 on Tuesday, and then they'll play at 12:35, an early afternoon game that Wednesday against the Pirates before taking on the Nationals next weekend. But this weekend, you have a lot of celebrating to do. Memorial Day weekend's coming up. Are you barbecuing? I read a stat earlier that 60% of Americans barbecue consistently on Memorial Day weekend. I'm actually surprised that number is not higher. I feel like we're not American enough if only 60% of us are barbecuing. Which I'm down to join somebody's barbecue if they want to invite me over for this weekend. That would be great. Go ahead and hit me up at Radio Trevor Rice on Twitter. I'll join your party. I like me some burgers. I'm a burger guy from the Midwest. Just grew up. When I was in Louisiana, it was all about having boils and stuff, crawfish boils and stuff like that. I was never a seafood guy. I didn't grow up on the coast, the Gulf Coast, East Coast, West Coast. I'm not a seafood person. I'm a burger guy. Yeah, brats are good too, but when it comes to meat, just give me a hamburger. I don't put cheese on it, though. People may hate me for not liking cheese on my burger. But regardless, Memorial Day, have a fantastic weekend coming up, and 60% of people barbecuing. Are you barbecuing? And nothing says a good time like barbecuing, and then why not sit around and watch a baseball game? So the Reds will be playing on our airwaves as well. You can actually have your radio going while you're out there barbecuing this weekend. I'm just saying, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Let's look at the tournaments again for the 17th District coming up. Baseball, softball side, they are in action right now as the 17th District tournaments. Who will advance? I feel like Central Hardin is going to advance out of the softball side pretty easily. 29-7. Jamie Goodman has that team rolling right now, and I would expect them to easily land themselves in the 5th region tournament. And the championship games will be played on Wednesday. I would expect North and Central to play each other on the boys' side in the baseball tournament on Wednesday in the championship game. And can North Hardin get past Central Hardin 3 times? It's hard to beat a team 3 times, especially a good program like Central Hardin has had over its recent history. North Hardin went undefeated in district play over the regular season, 8-0. Can they win another one? I mean, obviously they've got to beat John Hardin. John Hardin and Fort Knox play each other right now, and the winner will take on North Hardin. But realistically, do you really see John Hardin beating North Hardin? No, I don't. I just don't. Or is it E-Town? I think it's E-Town. It's E-Town and Fort Knox. I think I'm getting my teams mixed up right now out of the tournament. I think it's E-Town. Either way, I don't see any of those teams winning over North Hardin. And the I guess it'd be the opening round officially. I guess tonight's a play-in game between, I guess it would be E-Town and Fort Knox. I just don't see anybody beating North Hardin. Except Central can in the championship game, which would be played on Wednesday. If that happens, I think that would it'd be an interesting story going into the next Heartland Sports Live, don't you think? I don't know. I think the way that North Hardin's played, the way they looked in the regular season against some of the area teams, I would be surprised if that is not a leading headline heading into next week. We'll see how it all plays out. I still think it's going to be North Hardin, though, coming out on the boys' side, Central on the girls' side, and we will run down the 5th region tournament and what it looks like heading into next week, of course. Trevor Rice with you. Heartland Sports Live. It's on 106.1 ESPN Radio, 1400 AM. We live stream each and every show on ESPN Radio 1061.com. Once again, head to my Twitter account at Radio Trevor Rice, and you can go and find every show on there on the iTunes link. And we'll have this show uploaded hopefully tomorrow, if not Wednesday of this week, and you'll be able to download it then. So until that point, the next Heartland Sports Live, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy your time with family and friends, barbecuing or whatever you're doing. And let's meet back here in the future. Heartland Sports Live. It's Mondays 5 until 6. I think I will do next week's show on Tuesday because I'm going to take Monday off. So I think we're going to do next week's show on Tuesday 5 until 6. It'll be a special occasion, I guess you could say. So be listening out for it then. Until then, have a fantastic sports week. We'll see where the NBA Finals, or who's in the NBA Finals when it's all said and done. I think the Warriors get it done against the Trailblazers tonight. Man, what the Warriors have been doing without Kevin Durant has been nothing shocking, if you ask me. I mean, they were winning before Kevin Durant arrived there in San Francisco. I think they'll be fine if Kevin Durant decides he wants to go and play for the Knicks next year as well. When you have a foundation of Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond Green, just give them a couple of good pieces, and they're going to win. They're going to be a team that's contending for championships. I'm sorry. Like, Kevin Durant is not the big deal to that team being successful in the future. Does he help? Yes, he's definitely an asset. He definitely helps with allowing that team to win, possibly even more, or having better chances to win. But do they need him to win? No, they don't. He can go to New York next year, and I think the Warriors will still be fine as long as they have Thompson, Curry, and Green as a foundation for that, where that team needs to be next year. But I think the Bucks and the Raptors will keep things interesting. I'd like to see the Raptors tie that thing up tomorrow night, and we'll see where we're at headed into the weekend. We may talk about some NBA Finals action next week here on Heartland Sports Live. I want to thank Jason Harbison once again. I want to thank you for listening. It's Heartland Sports Live on 106.1 ESPN Radio.